Hey guys, so just published last week was this short novel by Joe M. McDermott called The Fortress at the End of Time. This is a sort of personal dilemma story set in the hard sci-fi genre, following the clone of a man named Ronaldo Aldo. It's slow-burning, character-driven, technical, and often thought-provoking. I really enjoyed it, especially towards the end, and really appreciate Tor for sending it out to me. Several generations passed, there was a war with an alien enemy that had engaged against us and has since disappeared. Humanity is now spread out amongst a few galaxies surrounding our own, with many colonies on whatever possible planets, all in different stages of terraforming. Back on Earth are various war colleges, military training schools with that past alien enemy in mind, and each colony we've spread to is connected back to Earth through something called an Ansible, traditionally a fictional communication device that allows for instantaneous, faster-than-light transmission amongst the stars, but here refers to an even further developed device that allows for the transportation of data used to clone real objects and things at any other Ansible it's connected to. It's used here to send the fully trained war college graduates out to other colonies without actually sending them. Ensign Ronaldo Aldo is assigned to the outpost station orbiting a colony called the Citadel. This is the worst possible assignment to get, one that's meant to be the first warning system for when the enemy returns, and is literally on the edge of explored space at a planet that's still very much in the process of being terraformed, on a station with very few people and a very high suicide rate. In fact, Ronaldo's predecessors just killed himself, and we follow our main character as he steps into the Ansible and immediately steps out as his clone at the Citadel listening station. The book begins by letting you know that this will not be a happy story. He addresses us, the reader, as his confessor and proceeds to tell us what's happened that's led him to being locked up for a crime that he's all too willing to admit that he committed. The account of his experience on the station and with the people and the monastery on this planet's colony whom patiently suffer as they await the arrival of an ice comet, which will move along their terraforming process, and with the other people, the other clones that he has to deal with on a daily basis, is both intriguing and slightly depressing. Overall, this book was a fascinating look into the somewhat mundane life of a fairly ordinary guy. Ronaldo is not a bad person, he's not exactly a good person either, but he does his best to follow orders, to stay on the straight and narrow, and to uphold his position. He is our main focus in this book as we read from his perspective, and he's a bit hard to grasp at first. He's a well-written character, but there's just something about him that doesn't really sit right with anyone that he encounters. Almost everyone he deals with has some reason to dislike him, and we as the reader get to see bits and pieces of that, but it's kind of overlaid by Ronaldo telling us, you know, I did my duty, I did what I had to do, I didn't know what I was doing, I regret doing this now, etc. There's just something off about him as a person, and he knows it. He's got this inability to connect with other people that really comes through in his interactions. He just doesn't get what the right thing to do is in any given situation, never knows what the right thing to say is, but just kind of does things as he wants to. He's an extremely awkward person, not in the sense of awkward that's gotten really popular recently, meaning like cute and a little weird and shy and whatever, but genuinely so. He's self-satisfying, kind of naive, and a bit self-centered. Almost every character in this has some sort of depth in their actions, in what they say, and as something there past what Ronaldo sees them as. It's actually really a very interesting thing to see the juxtaposition of who they actually are versus how Ronaldo sees them and how he expresses them to us. Much of this story is very methodical, and though it's focused on the story and this build-up to whatever crime was committed, it's draped heavily in hard sci-fi. It gets quite technical at times in every aspect that's explored, which was really cool. Day-to-day life on a station like this, the different ships docked there, the runs done in those ships, the terraforming of this colony, etc. It's got a good balance of character, information, and setting, and this place itself really starts to weigh on you as you read this, just as it does on those in the story. It's deep into space in the middle of nowhere, just kind of hanging out with little food or supplies or personnel, waiting to be of use as a warning that the enemy is coming. No one here is happy. Everyone's got something against everyone else, and no one quite knows what to make of Ronaldo. There's such a great dynamic going on there. What may turn some off from this is how slow it can be. And like I said, it's kind of methodical in a lot of ways, with a lot of talk to us specifically as his confessor from Ronaldo. There's not a lot of action for something you could classify as military science fiction. There's definitely some cool things happening and some exciting moments as well, but overall it's seemingly trying to be something different, a look into the military life that's not so adventurous. It's kind of a waiting game, consistently in limbo, just kind of functioning until it's needed. This book is not for everyone, sure, but I overall I liked these things about it and found it refreshing in that way. And I enjoyed Joe M. McDermott's writing quite a bit, actually. It was nice, but not obtrusive at all. Sometimes I felt he went a little overboard in describing stuff, but that can kind of feel intentional if you see it as Ronaldo being a little too over the top as he describes things. And the writing, the characters, the themes, just all really tiptoe into existentialism, even beyond the cloning thing. It's always just presented to us that this clone is real. He thinks and he feels and he has free will, but there's some other great introspection happening on top of that. There's also a lot to do with religion and how it affects those in a situation like this, how it exists on the outskirts of our colonization, and in this future that's not really described as being near or distant. There's a lot going on in this, and it's well worth the read. I will absolutely be looking out for anything by this author in the future. If you've got any comments on this book, if you've read it, if you're interested in reading it now, definitely let me know. I'm curious to see who's as intrigued by this as I was going into it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you later with more.